ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו שהכל נהיה בדברו. לחיים, חיים לברכה. For life and for blessings. Life is what we're doing. Learning. Learning Chassidus, that's life. And we should see the blessing in it. Carry its blessing. Okay. Continuing in our discourse. Maimer. Avata Titzava. We've identified that the true will of the neshama, of the soul, a Yiddish neshama, that it should shine, be illuminated with the Ein Sof or Ein Sof, the limitlessness of Hashem. That it should shine that limitless without limitation, meaning everywhere. And therefore, because it's not shining everywhere, the light of Hashem, that brings us to a state of being crushed because of the state of exile. The light of Hashem hasn't reached there. And since that's what a person really wants, that's an expression of the ma'or of the individual, the essence of their soul. Because this desire, right? It's not a self-serving desire, right? Because if you have the light of Hashem in your life and you're satisfied, that's self-serving. Now, that might be, it's wonderful. You might be a very lofty individual that the light of Hashem is in your life. But the core essence of the soul is that we want it, that light of God should be without any limitation, so it should shine everywhere. Hmm. I'm just privy to a conversation to a couple of people. This one complaining about this problem, that problem. And it was when you complain about something, you're complaining, and that's not what we're talking about here. It bothers you. That there's this problem that bothers you. And that's why you're crushed from it. That is the true expression of the luminary from within our soul. And this touches the core of this desire that godliness should be everywhere. It's not complaining about the situation, right? Not complaining about this person. You know, godliness isn't by them. Look at them, and you complain about them. No, not to complain about them. It's that it bothers you, and and as a result, obviously means you do something, whatever you can in your place, right? I'm just thinking that, what does that mean exactly? Like you see the events of the world, crazy stuff, and so on. So it bothers you that the light of Hashem isn't shining, and you do what you can to bring more light of God into the world, because that concerns the individual to the very core of their being. That comes from the essence of the soul. Now, this luminary of the soul that is revealed because we find ourselves in exile, right? In other words, we're talking about the situation like today that, you know, for the most part, we all have it. We all have it good spiritually and materially. If you compare to, if you compare to, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, whew, we got it good. Excuse me. David's coffee, l'chaim. So we got it good. But again, we're in exile. Yeah, even though we have it all good materially and spiritually. This notion that we're broken because the light of God isn't reaching everywhere is greater than the self-sacrifice that would be revealed from the core of the soul. This is what the novelty in this mimer is. And he explains. Remember, we said that by Matan Torah, by the giving of the Torah, Mount Sinai, that was the beginning, and the completion was by the story of Purim, right? That the Jews then completely accepted Hashem. Why? Because by Matan Torah, we accepted God. We said, Nasa v'nishma, we will do, God, whatever you want, we'll do it. Then we'll come to understand, we accept. But it was because there was a great revelation of God. Imagine a mountain over your head, and God, and someone says to you, "Do you accept this contract? You got much choice? No. Well, that's what happened at Mount Sinai. God's presence is so palpable, is so real. You got much choice? No. So was that really you choosing, or was that a compelled choice? It was a compelled choice, which is not the core of you choosing. And that's what happened in Mount Torah, something we spoke about at great length. Right? It's called a revelation from above. That's what Matan Torah, giving the Torah was, right? But what happened by the story of Achashverosh and the days of Achashverosh, by the decree of Haman, the Jews themselves personally accepted their commitment. They could have opted out, and no one had a thought to opt out of identifying themselves as a Jew. So, says Rebbe Yesh Leimar, say, So, so this faith of the Jew that comes from the neshama from above, that they see godliness, right? Is a faith, is an emunah that's pending on something. What's it pending on? Seeing. Seeing godliness. This is similar to the Jews' acceptance at the giving of the Torah. It was because of a revelation from above. In other words, something outside of them. It wasn't their reality. It was a reality that was beyond them, right? God revealed himself. Well, it's like, you go to a place, I don't know, go to the Grand Canyon. I don't know, never been there. So and you go to the Grand Canyon and you're, wow, overwhelmed by the awesomeness. So you see, because you saw it, so therefore you are overwhelmed. But does that become a part of you? Is that your identity? Is that your core being? No, it's not you. Well, that's what happened in Matan Torah. By the way, parenthetically, that's why after 40 days they could sin with the golden calf, because it didn't become filtered, it didn't become integrated, it didn't become permeated into their reality. It was beyond them. It was a revelation from above, not from within. Similar to the soul seeing, right? When the soul sees, well, it's seeing something greater than itself. Like, you're seeing the Grand Canyon again, right? Something greater but it's not you. It doesn't become your reality. It's just a reality you perceive. It doesn't become your being. It's a experience something beyond you, right? However, when we talk about what happened in the times of Achashverosh in the story of Purim, that the acceptance was from within, from their own reality, from their own core being, then it expressed the connection with godliness that comes from the core essence of their being, bound up, tied up with the core essence of godliness, that is their reality, that is who I am. So like, you wake up, it's like what October 7th did, right? Hey, before being a Jew was like, oh, I am a Jew. These are my people. Yeah, left-wing Israelis one that I quoted several months ago. What's his name? Will come to me. Considered himself an Israeli. He think himself a Jew. He's an Israeli. That's his identity. Israeli is not a core essence identity, right? Born in Israel or an Israeli passport. So you're, you know, American. Is that core essence of who you are? No. Maybe very deep and meaningful, but it's not the core essence of your identity. Israeli is not core essence of your identity. So he woke up after, you know what? I'm a Jew, first and foremost. I mean, that's a core essence of identity. So Jews woke up Purim, hey, I'm a Jew, core essence. And that led to expressing that's me. So let's understand this more deeply. The revelation of the essence of the soul um, in there's in two manners. The way in self-sacrifice. Remember, self-sacrifice does come from the core essence of the soul, right? Because you wouldn't sacrifice yourself unless you're reaching into a deeper part in self that is bound up with the divine. You wouldn't do it. You do what's good for you, right? You do what's good for you. Now, in the revelation of the core essence of one's soul, when it comes to self-sacrifice, how does that touch? Well, self-sacrifice means like, imagine, imagine you're under the Stalinist regime, and the previous Rebbe empowers you to make sure that the flame of Jewish life does not fade out. And you go from community to community to institute underground cheder, underground mikvahs, and synagogues for people to pray, right, in a clandestine manner, because you can't do it otherwise. It's putting your life on the line, right? And many, and they got killed, many of them, but they sacrificed their life. That's Chassidus nefesh. How does that touch? So you're living, every night you have to sleep at a different place. You have to hide, can't openly, do anything that you're doing. When you talk to somebody, you don't know if they are a government spy. You don't know who to trust, not to trust. Pretty crazy. How how much of that do you internalize and make it a part of, of the of your mind and heart? Um, you do, but it's sort of like it's like it's it is what's the word I'm looking for? It is subordinate, right? Your mind is subordinate to going beyond your mind. Because your mind would tell you, hey, self-preservation, that's what the mind and the heart are seeking self-preservation by nature, right? Self-preservation can mean literally to have my life, right? To be alive. Self-preservation can be emotionally and psychologically, right? I got to preserve, or that I feel good about myself. And, someone says something to me that is a put down. So, self-preservation is I gotta, I've got to deal with that in some manner, right? So that's what the mind and the heart. Well, you're living now in a manner of not self-preservation. Beyond that, how will that deal with your mind and your heart? You sort of not, whatever it is, your mind and your heart are kind of like a secondary value. So whatever your self-sacrifice that you're giving, you're giving your life up to to make sure the Jewish life will continue, right? In the former Soviet Union under Stalin, and what you're doing, not to say you don't understand and you're not emotionally given over to it. You are, but it's sort of because it's contrary, the two things, one to the other, right? The mind and the heart naturally self-preservation. Again, on all levels, and here it's on simplicity, just to to stay alive. And you're giving up your life, or not giving up your, you're not doing it to give up your life. You're doing it to promote and to make sure the flame of Jewish life should continue, but you're putting your life at risk. So the way it affects you intelligently and emotionally is it's not a core representation or reflection of that part of you, that integrated part of you, of your mind and your heart. And therefore your mind and your heart is, as it's related to the essence of your soul, it's sort of like a secondary value and nature. And with that, I got to stop in the middle of a thought. But yeah, listen, I hope you got that on some level. But we'll be back. See you soon. Thank you, folks.